Good day, everybody. It is Monday, the 8th of April, 2013, and just moments ago I finished a Monday show that went in a lot of places I didn't envision it having to go. I'm sitting there just before 7 this morning with all kinds of great local stories and national stuff and global stuff, the usual North Korea, Kaufman County, various local and global things, just ready to go for Talk Show Monday. But then something lands in my lap that sort of takes us in a different direction for much of the first hour, and that was the news that one of the great world leaders of our time, the Iron Lady, Margaret Thatcher, had passed away. I knew this day would come. I remember as President Reagan revealed his battle with Alzheimer's with such courage and grace. And then as, the decade of the 90s became the 2000s, and then we finally got to that day in June of 2004 when Ronald Reagan passed. It's like, wow, it's coming. But when it comes, boy, it still hits hard. I knew when the Iron Lady movie with Meryl Streep came out a couple years ago, it kind of reminded me that Lady Thatcher was not in the greatest of health and had made no bones about that, and that this day would also come, and now it has. She was 87. She had a stroke and passed away in England, and now, just days from now, we'll see an unbelievable state funeral at Westminster Abbey and just incredible tributes to her legacy. So I kind of wanted to get ahead of that curve and leave a little something of my own. In 1975, I was graduating from high school. My main concerns was where would I go to college and where could I find beer. At that point, Lady Thatcher was 4 years short of becoming the prime minister, which she ascended to in 1979 and stayed there till 1990. But she was already delivering speeches that so brilliantly juxtaposed the proper role of the state and the citizen. She was already talking about how the government should be the servant of the people and not the master. And I played some of that on this morning show. And then I went straight to, I want to say, November 1990, when John Major had won and she was going to be exiting 10 Downing Street and handing things over to him. But she had one last appearance at what is called Prime Minister's Question Time. It occurs in the House of Commons, and I've always thought that we should do that in America. The equivalent would be an American president stepping down into the well of the House of Representatives and essentially just not so much taking questions like a press conference, but taking challenges, taking barbs, taking witty, pithy retorts and things, and just 30 seconds here, 30 seconds there in a kind of a rapid fire thing, which is probably why it would never work in America. Are you kidding me? With this president, he'd never shut up. Most presidents wouldn't. And to be bipartisan about this, all of the people of the president's party would just be effusive in their praise, and all the people of the opposite party just probably could never let it go in terms of putting their pedal to the metal in opposition. So it'd probably be a horrible failure in the American model. But in the British construct, Lady Thatcher would step in, and people from various portions of the United Kingdom would tell them why they thought she was a genius on something or why she was crazy on another, and then she would give them back some rapid-fire retort. It's just absolutely great. And in her very last one of those, in November of 1990, there was someone who arose with a general bit of praise for her as she prepared to take her leave, but said that, madam, can you really be proud of the disparity of income, that the rich have become richer and the poor have become poorer, blah, blah, blah. And this is just one of my favorite bugaboos. Income disparity drives me crazy. It is absolutely irrelevant. Disparity is irrelevant. We should be trying to raise the tide of all the boats. And Prime Minister Thatcher put it so brilliantly to this man. She said, the honorable gentleman would not care if the poor got poorer just so the rich grew less rich. And that is exactly the point to be made about the left and about socialism. The whole thing about the problem with socialism is you eventually run out of other people's money. The woman was an absolute genius. And I would say of her what I said about Reagan. It wasn't just a win for conservatism or a win for my side, rah, 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 politically. These leaders, Reagan in America, Thatcher in the UK, made their countries safer, made their countries better, made their countries grander and wealthier, while keeping their people safer. They were great leaders, not just of their nations, but of the world, and their like will not be seen again. We can try, but there will never be another Reagan, and there will never, ever be another Margaret Thatcher. So as she looks down on all of us from heaven, we look upward and we salute. And many, many salutes lie ahead. And as we work on a week of shows here, as we work toward mid-April, we'll be taking a look at the Thatcher legacy and how that all gets covered. Let me give you one quick thing. If you're watching this on Monday afternoon, we should have, this is going to be a pretty cool segment tomorrow, Tuesday show at 8:05. There is a lady up in Collin County who has a nail salon. Now, when I say nail salon, what do you think of ethnically? Exactly. Asian people, probably Vietnamese people. I don't care. They do a great job. It's a world I'm totally unfamiliar with. But it might be Ladies' Day on the Mark Davis Show for our Tuesday edition, because what we have here is a lady who has a sign out front of her nail salon. It says, American owned, American staffed. Thank you, talk show gods. Is this proud patriotism, valuable consumer information, or a kind of a bit of a slight to the very, very Asian Vietnamese flavor of some of these other places? A guy walked into her place, or walked in next door to the Vietnamese restaurant that happens to be next door, and he took offense. He's got like 4 adopted Vietnamese kids, and he thought that the lady was delivering a shiv in the ribs to maybe some of the Vietnamese folks who own nail salons, many of whom are totally naturalized citizens, and thus as American as you and I are, presuming you are. And so he offered to buy her a new sign, and she said, nope, I like my sign. Anyway, she is with us on the Tuesday show at 8:05, so that ought to be delightful. And it's always delightful to interact with you. Appreciate it very, very much. Thanks for listening to The Mark Davis Show, 7-10 Monday through Thursday, 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Friday when we do Bill Bennett's Morning in America as well. Didn't mean to use the editorial we there. I hate that. But we're almost done, so I will say thanks. Appreciate you listening right here on 660 a.m. The Answer.